You're listening to the Make Mental Podcast. One thing I've learned while running Make Mental is that the conversations are the easy part. It's creating content and getting it out there that takes the most time and energy. That's why I started working with C3 Socials, and honestly, they have been a lifesaver. They've been running my Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for the past few months, and in just the last 90 days, over 350,000 people have visited my Instagram alone. But the numbers aren't even the best part. It is the time and energy that I've gotten back. Chandler, the owner, is super personable and always available. Seriously, it's crazy how hands-on she is. So if you're trying to grow your brand or just free up some headspace while getting results, check out C3 Socials. Tell them Make Mental sent you because they've helped me tremendously, and I cannot recommend them enough. Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to another episode on the Make Mental Podcast. Today's guest is someone who embodies reinvention at the highest level. Alex Klein grew up as a multi-sport athlete in Ontario, Canada, became a Division I basketball standout at Bryant University, and even played professionally overseas. But her story is not just about her athletic success. It's about what happens when life forces you to rewrite your identity from scratch. Ulcerative colitis changed everything for her. It challenged her physically, mentally, and emotionally. It forced her to confront who she was outside of sport and who she wanted to become, and is still becoming. And somehow, in the middle of rebuilding her health and her confidence, she found a new path: bobsleigh, a sport she never imagined, but one that unlocked a version of herself she didn't even know existed. Today, she has sat as North American Cup champion brakewoman, a world-level competitor, and the founder of Group of Grit, a community supporting women with autoimmune diseases. Alex's story, again, is about resilience, reinvention, and choosing purpose over circumstance. So I'm so excited to dive into the moments that have shaped her, the battles she has fought quietly and publicly, and the identity she is still building now. Alex, thank you so much for taking your time, some time out of your day, rather, to be with us here on the Make Mental Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for our conversation.
Yeah, me as well. I kind of want to go back to origin and identity for you. When you think back to your childhood, what part of your personality showed up earliest? Was it the competitor? Was it the leader? Or was it someone who really just loved sport?
First thing that comes to mind is just loving sport. I remember it was like every day at recess. I remember being on the playground as a little girl and just memories of playing soccer with the boys, playing tag with the boys. And I wish there were more girls involved in this, but I just remember all my closest friends were boys and we just forever played sports together. So that was instilled in me as long as I can remember.
Yeah, as someone who can't relate, obviously, why do you wish there were more females involved in this early process? I mean, I didn't notice it, one, because I have two older brothers, but two, because I'm not a female myself. So if you could speak on that, that would be huge.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of it has to do with my parents, my mom just specifically throwing me in any sport that I could possibly be thrown into as a little as a little one. I think that really helped start the development of many character traits that I'm very grateful for now, but just get exposure for me into what sports are. And it was just a natural love to try anything and everything, which develops later on in my athletic story, as you know. But yeah, I think that I think for more younger girls to have exposure earlier on. And I personally think I'm not a parent, but I do think that just being tossed into as much as I could be when I was young really was a key part of my journey and like starting that development of love for sport.
Who was your role model growing up?
I know this is probably the answer for many people. My mom comes to mind first and foremost. She was just always a strong female figure in my life, and we have a very close relationship now, very similar individuals, but also different in some ways. And she was just like, yeah, the embodiment of a strong woman. So I was always drawn to other I mean, even female athletes that come to mind that just are bold in what they do, whether it's in sport or in life, but who
Mm.
boldly approach their life. Um, and so for some reason, that's always been something organic for me to be drawn to people like that.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about your mom. Clearly, she's an important woman in your life. Was she an athlete growing up? What does she do? Tell us all things Mrs. Klein, I assume.
Yes, she's a retired teacher. She subs for fun now, and I've heard I've never been taught by her in the classroom per se, but she is just such a natural, gifted teacher, and she's so good at what she does. She played volleyball in university, was a very good player from what I've heard, although she's quite humble about it. I hear she was great, and, I know leaves a mark on anyone that she has in her classroom, which I think is really, really special because as maybe you can even relate, like, the coaches or the teachers, whoever those figures are that you can think of actively that really made a positive impact. She was that for a lot of kids, so I'm really
Mm.
proud to know that she is that for a lot of people.
Yeah, and she still is for you today. How blessed are you in a sense that, yeah, people think back and say, I had Miss Klein as a teacher. She really made an impact. And you're like, yep, she's still my mom. She still has an impact.
Yeah,
Almost
I'm
like a
really
brag
proud.
moment. Yeah, no, I can relate to that, and in the respect that a handful of coaches came to mind when in my personal experience when you said that, and I'm a coach myself now. So I hope that one day I am that mentor for someone, and it might not even be in the respect of, oh, he made me a better, in my case, soccer player. I hope it's more of, oh, he made me a better person. And I know that sounds
Mhm.
so cliche. If you were to strip everything down, and I know this is going to be an impossible ask for you, but if you were to strip everything down that your mom taught you and just pull one thing away that she's given you, what did she instill in you that has gotten you this far?
What has she instilled in me that has gotten me this far? To go after what my heart tells me to go after, I think. And I think even the one difference too between us, which is funny, is she has always been somebody who plays things a little bit more safely than me. And I'm the kind of more of a risk taker than her. So we differ in that aspect. But she's always behind me, number one supporter, no matter what bold jump I've decided to take. So she encourages that and to act independently how I feel is the best direction for me. She's always there.
Yeah, in terms of risk taking, what do you mean?
I mean, bobsled was a huge risk, for example. I don't know if you want to talk talk so fast
Wherever,
about
wherever
it.
you want to go. This is your spotlight moment, Alec.
I think I could tell her quite literally like anything. I've decided to 180 my life completely in any way, and she'd be like, "Okay." Like I trust you, Alex, in what you feel is the smartest or best decision for yourself. She's never fought me on anything, any decision I've made, including like bobsled is obviously a very dangerous sport. So would she do it? No. Would she have done it? No. But she's never been one to tell me she doesn't really agree with my decision because she knows damn well that I'll follow through with it anyway. So she's always just a supporter no matter what.
Yeah, I think if you follow your story at a very high lens, right? It seems like a story of success, and it is to a certain extent. What is a moment that you kind of wished maybe your mom said, "Hey, Alex, don't do that. Please don't do this," instead of giving you full support?
Ooh, it's a hard one. I don't know if there is one. Maybe, I mean, this isn't exactly in direct response to what you said, but maybe like when I was playing basketball overseas professionally my first season, and then I told her something was going on with my body, and I felt like it was more serious than not. I think that it was a little bit like, "Oh, no, it'll be nothing," kind of vibe. But I knew my body as a elite athlete, how it felt, how it performed, and I knew something was off. So, a little bit different than what you asked, but I think, it's easy, and this goes on to the bigger conversation about kinda just, like, not dismissing, I don't wanna say she dismissed me, but just kinda like, you know, off the shoulder, like it'll be okay, like no problem, stay positive. But in certain scenarios, there's something deeper going on. So just in that respect, I think, yeah.
I appreciate the honesty, and you were and probably still are such a high motor, high character athlete and individual that some symptoms of your autoimmune disease, which we'll get into, could present as burnout, as stress, as anxiety, sometimes depression if you can't get out of bed. Again, your experience is unique to you, so I'll let you speak on that. But as someone who is also very high motor, there are moments where you're right. I do wish I listened to my body and said, "Hey, stop. Like, don't go to your day job, then record a podcast, then go to your night job, then stay up till 2, and you forgot about hanging out with your friends," right? It's just who we are sometimes. I want to know from your perspective, and I guess maybe if you can kind of touch on again, I ask because I don't know, a female athlete perspective. You're not the first person to say that you should trust your body that is a female high performing athlete. We've had a handful on our podcast say that. Why do you really take that to heart? And I guess follow up to that question is, how do you know when it is your body telling you to slow down versus your brain telling you to be a little lazy?
I'm going to need you to ask that in 2 parts so I don't forget.
Fair. I'll split it up. Okay. First question: as a high performing female athlete, why is it so important to listen to your body?
Because I think we don't have an off button. We just go and go and go and go and go and go. And a lot of great things come from that. So that's, I think, the hard part is we are built on achievement. A lot of us, not all of us, but we are also conditioned for external validation. And so just a variety of factors. And when we go, 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 and there's always a new ceiling and a new ceiling and a new ceiling, our bodies are machines. We are machines. And so at some point you need to replenish that machine and fuel properly and things like that. So I learned to trust my gut, which is on the back of my sweater for Grip of Grit, because I had no option to, because I went to the end of the road where there was no more road and your body was like, we can't take you any further. So I kind of had no choice but to be rerouted. A lot of the time you don't want to get to that point and, manifest inflammation into an autoimmune disease, for example. So I learned the hard way to trust my gut for sure. I'm still working on it every day. Now I'm ready for your second question.
I appreciate that point that you're still working on it every day. Again,
Mhm.
because it's easy to sit here and say we have it all down when, yeah, we probably have more of it down than a lot of people that listen. But I'm sure there's at least one listener who's further along in the journey than, in our case, than we are right now. But the second question to that is, I forgot. So, will
That's so like me. I do that all the time.
I'm going to have to think about that. No, what did I say?
Something
It
about
was,
trusting your gut and
oh, okay, yeah, I got it. Good thing this is edited, right? Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that point of knowing that even maybe now you still have to learn how to trust your gut, right? Like we all get that feeling, but our brain tells us, hey, maybe your gut's wrong. On that point, how do you know when it isn't your gut and it's your brain just tricking you into being what we consider as lazy or unmotivated?
I would say, to this point now it's intuition. It's just, I think I at first hesitated. Do I bring, like, I don't want to bring sexism in, for example, but like, especially for women, I think women are very much historically conditioned to suppress emotion, and I know this because just when researching, like, why do 80% of people who have autoimmune disease, why are they women? And it depends on what expert you listen to research from. And I think they're all really good tools, but there is talk out there in the industry, in the wellness world, about that being a big contributor to why we are diagnosed with these conditions. So there's no for sure science saying, hey, that's why you have this autoimmune disease. That's definitely not my place. It's definitely not what doctors are saying, but could it be a contributing factor? Yes. I think really just building, like, trusting that intuition before your brain also takes part is just something that I've learned a little bit better after bobsled, now that I'm in my 30s compared to my 20s. It's gotten a lot better for me.
Yeah, interesting point, and I'm very visual. So as you were saying, trust your intuition, trust your gut before your brain gets there. Totally unrelated topic. However, I think the principle stands. Excuse me. I was on the golf course the other day because what else would I do in the middle of summer, who works? But I didn't know if I should use my driver or my 3-wood, right? Like my gut was telling me 3-wood, my head was telling me driver. I flipped a coin, it told me 3-wood, and it felt wrong. Like I just was like, I wish it
Mm.
landed on driver.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not nearly as a life-threatening or important decision as what you've gone through.
Same principle
Simply
though.
correct. The principle is the same. If you're going to trust your intuition, trust your gut, and you were to say, okay, tails is my head. Well, let's do heads is head. Otherwise, that
Mm-hmm.
would be kind of, see, I trusted my gut. Heads is head, tails is gut, right? And you flip the coin and one feels right or wrong. That's your gut telling you. That's not
Mm-hmm.
your head telling you.
Yeah, 100%.
To not get on a tangent, I want to talk a little bit about emotion suppression that you talked about. Does it have something to do with autoimmune disease? I'm sure. Mind body connection. Again, I'm no doctor, but it's there. If you tell yourself you're sick, eventually you're going to end up sick, right? Possibly quicker than you would normally. For you, what were the emotions you were suppressing leading up to the moment you found out that you had ulcerative colitis?
Anger for sure, towards like personal childhood things that I didn't really have a voice in a lot of growing up, specific situations. And so again, it's you can't like give you something tangible being like, look, here is proof that this was a factor. But if you
Correct,
asked
correct.
me on a non-medical basis, I do think that that for sure had an impact. I believe that again it creates internal inflammation, and for me it showed through UC and having an IBD. For other people it could show in many other different conditions. There's about roughly 140 autoimmune conditions that we know of right now in the
Wow.
world that are like officially named, or it could turn into other things like who knows, who's to say like cancers. But again, non-medical statement, do I think that it has a factor? For sure, but anger would be the main one that comes to mind.
UC is ulcerative colitis, right?
Yes, yes.
IBD is,
Irritable bowel disease, so it's the sister disease of Crohn's. Yeah.
I've heard of IBS, like irritable bowel syndrome. Is
So
it the
that is
same? Is it different? Is
no
it
different. I like to differentiate these because that's not an
okay?
uncommon thing. IBS is like not a disease, but you may have like you still would have uncomfortable symptoms. When I knew there was something like seriously wrong, there was blood present every time you go to the bathroom. So it's like that was the big symptom for me where I was like, oh, this isn't great. I feel like this is more serious along with the pain. But yes, that would be like for me, UC is bluntly when I would be in a traumatic situation or high emotional, stressful circumstance in my life, I get ulcers along my colon, along my large intestine. So anything that you ingest, food, beverage that passes through, you bleed because it's so
Mm,
inflamed and so angry. So my immune system is attacking healthy tissue essentially.
interesting.
Hmm.
And again, not to oversimplify, but just to kind of drill a point home, IBS is you shit a lot, and
IBS is like
IBD.
there's urgency, right? And
Okay,
there's like,
okay,
yeah, other bathrooms and other, yeah, exactly. With you see there's blood when you go, which was like the
okay,
telltale sign that it was, yeah,
okay.
something more.
I'm just trying to simplify for someone who, like myself, a
Hmm.
foreigner to this topic, but I want to get
Hmm.
back to the point of anger. You talked
Hmm.
about anger being present. How long was this anger present, or did you not really unpack that?
It's so funny you ask that because my therapist and I have been through these conversations and I'm like, I can't remember, the specific year. I don't even remember my age even, but
Mm,
I would definitely say, like, since being a younger girl, especially when it hit double digits in those, like, really transformative years as into a
like
teen.
middle school and
Yeah,
beyond.
I would say middle school, but, like and then even more, like, more extreme into high school, and early 20s was, like, really a lot, and, I mean, it's a long time to be suppressing emotions, and just
That's a
not feeling
weird
like you can
weird
have a
time
voice.
frame. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
not that's almost the same timeline I'm on right now. So here I am
Mhm.
in my chair saying, "Let's get to 30. Let's get to 30." No, I realize I don't know. The more people I talk to, middle school is that spark moment. In
Mm.
your opinion, is there anything there, or is that just when your body changes and some of us don't really know how to handle it well? Like, I'm curious of your opinion on that because, again, it happened when I was 13, 14, my mental health journey. Again, I've
Mhm.
worked for my therapist. I didn't know it started then. It did when I worked backwards, but
Right.
we're not alone there. What are your thoughts on that?
It's I don't my only thought, like, that comes, again, instinctively to my mind first and foremost is, like, nature versus nurture, like, who knows? That's the whole question, right? Like, who would you be if you were not conditioned in this environment? Who would you be if you were not around these situations? So, that's the only thing that kinda comes to mind immediately, and there's no straight answer to that either. Like
Correct, correct. And it's almost like learned helplessness versus like learned effectiveness. I was
Mhm.
reading that lately. Like, for example, I think the example I was reading was like dogs were electric shocked and then they had a way to get out, but they kept running back to the electric shock because they just thought they were helpless.
Sure.
Versus, obviously, you're not going to do that to humans, but like if you could teach learned effectiveness, like, "Oh, I can get out of this. Oh, there is a route around. Yeah, the shock's that way. It's going to hurt, but I can be positive and optimistic." It's kind of that concept, like nature versus nurture, like you said. As we continue the conversation and move along unintentionally, kind of chronologically, when did basketball become a part of your life?
The 2nd grade. So my mom, I
Okay.
asked her, she said it was grade 2. We say grade 2 in Canada and 2nd grade in the US, but it was the 2nd grade when I started playing in a league, and then I was never really the most talented player on the court, but I always worked my butt off, like, I was always a hard worker, and so I became a really big physical presence on the court,
Were you
and that
6 foot tall in second grade?
No, I was not, and I was it's so funny because I was actually like, I started off being like a guard, a point guard, and then, yeah, being a more of a guard position, then all of a sudden in the 10th grade, I got my growth spurt a little bit late, and I was randomly in another position now. Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, 10th grade is still pretty young to have to make that switch of it's like I mean, honestly, you probably thought, "Oh, okay, cool. I played point guard my entire life. This is where I might end up in college." Then nope, coach says you're a power forward or a center now, and you have to relearn that. But I think that has something to do with your transition to being an Olympic athlete. But we'll unpack that in a minute. When did you know basketball wasn't meant to be in your story anymore?
I had a lot of people ask me if I was going to go back after my diagnosis, after I came back from Europe, and I just felt in my heart that the chapter like, I was ready to move on and close that chapter. And I really had to prioritize again because I had no choice. You have to prioritize your health because you can't be a good athlete,
Mm.
let alone anything else if you don't have your health in check. So I realized that, and not in the most easy way, but I realized that. Just kind of closed that chapter on my own and made peace with it and carried on. New opportunity came.
Do you ever wish you could play at that competitive level again?
I don't see myself doing it. Did I wish that it went on longer? For sure. I saw myself doing it for at least a couple or a few years and traveling and staying in Europe
How long were you over there?
half a season. So
Oh,
I
wow.
had a really good
Okay.
start, and then, like, halfway through, something was wrong with my body. So and it's unfortunate because nobody else on the team and because I didn't know have any answers. You can't really give the club or the coach or the team any answers, so that was kinda the most unfortunate part for me.
Yeah. How did that feel? That unknown that, yeah, something's wrong, but I have no words to articulate it.
Very scary. That's what you hear from people in that waiting period. Like, it's one thing when you get the official diagnosis, like, this is what's going on, but also there's that waiting period. So that is a really uncomfortable, unfortunate period of time where you're just like it's out of your control. So you have to literally let go and just hope and pray for the best.
Yeah, walk me through that time of your life, if you don't mind, when you're away from home, when you're pursuing your passion, but then all of a sudden your body brings you to a screeching halt. I'd assume you're not near your normal doctors that you see. Like what, that's got to be this, like you said, the scariest time period in your life. Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, especially being in a foreign country. I think a lot of people don't take it seriously at the beginning, which is interesting because you would think that an elite athlete would be so in tune with their body that if they say
Mm,
something more serious
good
is
point.
wrong. And they should, yeah, but and especially for women, again, a lot of women are dismissed. I get this all the time with Group of Grit. I just spoke to a mom last week on behalf of her daughter, and she's been dismissed for 10 years. It's been a decade with no treatment plan. And so women are even more so vastly dismissed. And like you mentioned even earlier today, it's dismissed a lot of the time as anxiety, but anxiety often is an effect of the sickness and it
The
creates
result of
anxiety.
something bigger.
Correct. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm. So how did you, again, if you're open to it, how did the diagnosis unfold? Did you come home? Like what was the your, I guess, because not everyone's the same, your plan of action?
I at first in my head, I mean, what you shouldn't do, but of course I did, is Google. And it's funny
Yeah.
because I had like dumped, and this is before AI, like I'd ever even known or used that at all. Wasn't a thing back then, 2018, but I put my stuff into Google and it spit out Crohn's disease. So I was like, I had already had it in my head, which is not what I have, but I have the sister disease of that. So I already knew. And then I knew, like, based on my reading, that I needed a scope in order to actually have that like solidified as what's going on. It took me 8 months to receive that diagnosis. So
Wow.
that's like it seems so long when you're in it. Like 8 months being in such discomfort is a long time. Every flare for me has been months and months on end. So it feels never ending. But again, some people have it for years where they're in that waiting period. So
Yeah.
super
I was going to
unfortunate.
ask, is 8 months a fast pass, or is that like a normal amount of diagnosis time, or?
Subjective. It depends
Okay.
who you ask.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
some people would jump at that. That girl who I just mentioned who is waiting 10 years and doesn't have
Fair.
an idea what's going on, like she would jump at 8 months, but
Very fair.
other people would think that that's super long. So I was just grateful to finally have a colonoscopy. And I think a lot of places don't want to do it because of resources. It costs money to do it, et cetera. I mean, I also saw like I was brought to a tropical diseases specialist and so on and so forth. And so, in some cases, I knew in my heart that's not what it was, but I think it's important maybe to rule it out. Sometimes when you travel to other countries, they asked if I had gone to Africa. I had been to Africa years before. Had you been in the water? Yes, I had. So like some people get parasites and then you don't know. And then I know people that have had that happen and you don't realize it's in your system. So at least that was ruled out. That was the first thing I actually went eventually found my way to getting a scope, and then that's the official confirmed way they can give you a diagnosis.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. Again, I might be, well, I not might be, I am oversimplifying, but if someone were listening to this right now and said, "Ooh, crap, I have a lot of symptoms. I just AI Googled this." What would you suggest to them the first step be besides stop Googling?
I would write down everything, put it onto
Okay.
paper, get it out of your brain immediately
Mm,
onto paper, and just keep track if there's patterns. People don't do this, and then over time, that it's a very helpful resource and tool to bring into a doctor, and even just to have for yourself. But if there's something out of the ordinary, I would monitor that and just keep track. Especially as an athlete, we just like know. We just know when something's a little bit off. But yeah, dump it onto paper.
fantastic. That's something I didn't even think of, but it's fantastic advice. And we do that. We do it with our sport. We write down, we watch film, we look at ourselves from the past 4 or 5 years for progress. I'm not saying you have to do this for 4 to 5 years before you get help, but if like you said, if you notice it, make note of it. Yeah. No, wow. That's really good advice. Obviously, this is a lot going on in your life all at once. Did you decide to become an Olympian while this was going on? Or is this okay, I've got the terminology, I've started to figure it out a little. Let's take on something potentially just as challenging, but in its own respect.
Definitely not. It took me a couple years I had worked in the business realm, like different roles, different jobs. I was working in sales and marketing, and I just had a physiotherapist for Team Canada. I had met her, and she suggested that I go to a late entry testing camp, which essentially they scout and recruit athletes who are top performing in other sports and recruit them to late entry sports. So this includes like sliding sports, so skeleton, luge, bobsleigh are under that umbrella. There's cycling, rowing, not as late of an age, but anyways, there's certain sports that you can kind of still pursue given a little bit older of an age and more sport experience. So my whole philosophy and still kind of is like why not? Why not just throw yourself out there and see what happens? So found myself in this world out of nowhere and honestly wasn't mentally even ready for this kind of environment whatsoever, to be completely honest. But I think that that's the really fun thing about life. And again, I was just talking to my therapist about this morning. Is as much as and I think a lot of athletes are this way because we're type A, we're high achievers, we want all these great things for ourselves. But then I find I have to reel myself in because I'm forecasting too much. So I think that's a really fun thing about life is you really have no idea. I have to remind myself this every day still, but you have no idea what is on the horizon for you, what's coming. And if you work hard and throw yourself out there and, work on characteristics for yourself, and good things will magnetize back to you. So that's how I think I found bobsled is through, yeah, just giving myself the opportunity and put myself out there.
Yeah, you create, and again, I think we do this, but again, we don't necessarily have terminology. I like to say that you create your own luck. You could
Mm,
have bundled up into a little ball, and again, this isn't going to attack anyone if this is the stage you're in, but you could play the woe is me game. Why do I have this? I'm never going to be this X, Y, or Z again. Athlete, teacher, musician, parent, right? In your case, it was athlete, but you decided, no, I'm going to tackle this, and then I'm going to take something else on. I'm going to continue to have a positive impact in any way I can. And I'm sure if sport wasn't an option, you would have found another way. And you have found
mhm.
another way. Again, we'll get into that. But you said you weren't ready for it mentally to be at an Olympic athlete level. What weren't you ready for?
Not the Olympic athlete level, rather the environment. It's a very,
Okay.
very brutal sport and very brutal environment on its own, but to have an invisible layer of autoimmune disease to manage on a day to day and nobody has the capacity to care or know what you're going through, like it's already so cutthroat. So to add in that layer on top of it was just a very, very hard ask of myself. And so actually, when I finally stepped back from bobsleigh, I felt a lot of relief from doing so.
What was relieving about it?
Just not putting my body under that strain every day.
Did you, again, forgive me if I'm getting a little too personal, did you experience more or less flare ups when you stopped?
Interesting question. Because I
Or is
still
that not
tried.
how it works?
No,
Either
no,
one.
that's okay. There were a couple during it, but again, like during the years, but I tried to hide it. Again, I'm sure they had an impact. Like I'm sure there were times when that type of training or like being on the ice and being like I would give my life away to the pilot every single day that we did a run on the track. So it's like even on the nervous system, it's so
Yeah.
hard the G-force, like from a sports perspective, that sport, what it's doing to you. But then when my body is so sensitive to environmental factors, I think it was just a lot, just a lot for my poor body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And mom never said no. She kept supporting you the whole
She
way.
never said no. She was like, you're probably crazy,
Well, she
but
might have said you're crazy, but
no,
there's a
she's never
difference.
said it. Not to this day.
You are, well, you're incredible, but secondly, you're so open. I know you mentioned you said
Yes.
you hid it a lot from your coaches and probably teammates.
Mhm.
Where does this newfound openness, and maybe it's not newfound, but where does this new bravery to be more open come from rather than hide it from everybody?
I had met a girl and her mom a few years ago during my bobsled journey. They were Canadian and they both truly inspired the whole concept of group of grit. I wanted to build something for what I needed back then. And a lot of founders do that. They build something for what they needed in their journey. But these two specific individuals were really the two avatars that became who I want to speak to through Group of Grit and anything I do for Group of Grit. The one was the girl who was navigating her autoimmune disease at age 14, and then the other was the mother who was trying to do anything and everything to support her daughter along her diagnosis journey. I knew that there was a huge, huge gap. There are tons of very important and needed clinical resources that exist, like all the not-for-profits, all the organizations for specific diseases and so forth. So important and so needed. Wonderful, wonderful things that they exist. However, I personally felt, I know a lot of other girls feel, that there wasn't like a bright, optimistic, colorful, fun, uplifting space that still showed that you can do a lot of cool things, live a good life, experience whatever, ABC your body allows you to, but life is just going to look a little bit different. It may not look how it did before, but there's still a lot of hope and a lot of good reasons why you should be living, despite it. So I wanted to create a community and a space, resources, and so on and so forth that really embodied these feelings. I felt that it was lacking and that the world didn't really have a place like that to openly talk about this stuff with other women.
Yeah, not like you said, not necessarily diagnose and treat, and I'll use the word cure lightly,
Mhm,
but aid, I would say, more of a
mhm,
space to belong and exist and just
mhm.
bounce ideas off each other from, like we've been talking about this whole time, others that are going through it, that have gone through it. And again, unfortunately, that will go through it. You are that role model for someone, which I think is incredible. So we really appreciate what you're doing over there at Group of Grit. We will drop all the links to that in the description below, just in case you want to belong or even check it out or support. I will shamelessly plug our podcast, our guests, their platforms. Why else would we have them on, right? We don't just get anyone to come on. But I want to know what, and again, I speak from a place of experiencing this myself. We get a lot of tough direct messages and questions to our podcast that I don't always have the answers to, and I don't pretend to, right? That's just not who I am. It's who I could sit here and say I used to before I had this platform, pretend I had to know everything, but now it's taught me a lot. What are some difficult questions that you get asked that sometimes just tear you apart that you're like, man, I really wish I could answer that for you. However, I don't know.
Mhm. A lot of medical related, clinical related questions, which I reroute or, send them towards a resource, or if I know somebody better equipped who might be able to best answer those questions, then I'll direct them that way. A lot of what I've built and what I do is solely just supporting and creating whatever resources I'm capable of creating or partnering with somebody who we can create these together. But I think in answer to that question, in hearing everyone's like medical journey, it's so individualized.
Mm,
Even if somebody else has ulcerative colitis and I'm like, oh, I can relate, wonderful. Even when you have the same disease, it's so, so individual to you. What might work for me very well might not work for the other girl that I'm speaking with. So, with that said, I think that could be one of the more difficult situations where I can't give a straight up answer. However, I do feel confidently equipped to provide support and comfort through that. So it's all organic, and that's what's what's really nice, like from my lived experience and like the network of people and women now that I know. If I don't have the answer to something, then I can reach out to certain individuals who can likely help them a little bit more.
I appreciate that. And that's a lot of responsibility. So I'm going to speak to my fellow leaders here and asking you a question, Alex. How would you suggest to those maybe leading a community such as ours or yours specifically to handle that situation and take that responsibility straight on?
How to handle the hard questions?
Yeah, how to handle like the responsibility of just being in charge of a community and knowing that you might not know it all, but you're not going to shy away from the hard parts.
I think it's so similar. I just always relate it to being an athlete in so many different ways, but it's like pressure is a privilege and you're in this leadership position as like you were there for a reason to help at least one other person. So remembering that you're capable and, even if you have, what's the term that I'm forgetting that term right now, where you don't want to, oh, imposter syndrome. Like if you feel that when you're leading another community, it's like, I think a lot of the time people think that just having a credential or having a certification or having like a coaching, whatever, they need that to lead a community. And it's like, people are watching you and they're having your back because they love you for what you're delivering, like who you are authentically. I think that's really, really important, is to like not wear a mask, just stay with who you truly are. You have a base for who you are as like your true human self. And so you're needed to lead that community and that group. You're there for a reason.
Trust your gut. Not
Trust
to
your
bring
gut.
it full
I should
circle,
turn around.
but
It's my
trust your gut.
my
I
sweater.
love that. I'm gonna need to grab one of those. I love that. I absolutely
It's
love that.
unisex.
Hey, perfect. I would, if even if it was women, I would have rocked it and not told anyone. That thing is awesome.
Thanks, Caleb.
I think you're spot on though. Like and we're in a community today, or a society rather, that I think sometimes the feeling of belonging is just as powerful as the actual diagnosis or a treatment plan, or
Mm-hmm.
not from a sense of physical healing, but mental healing as medicine, right? I mean, we see so many meditation retreats. We see so many, just literally anything you can do to put your mind to it, visualization, just to get that sense of, yes, I can do it. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
dismissing medicinal treatments, right? Like
No, of
obviously,
course, of
if
course.
you need ibuprofen, take ibuprofen, to simplify it again. But when you create a community and you trust your gut that you're supposed to be the leader of that community, it can take you to places you never imagined.
Mm-hmm.
You're someone who's been across the world playing sport, across the world advocating for your group of women. Where has Group of Grit taken you that if you were to tell yourself when you started this, you just wouldn't believe it?
Oh man. Well, it's so funny because I think that the best is yet to come. I have no idea what's like. I have no idea what life's gonna throw for me. I have a feeling it's gonna throw me another twist in a great way. I have
Mm,
no clue sport wise. I have no clue athletic wise. It's taken me to, speak to organizations and individuals that I would never have met if I had never shared my story or built something for these women in this community. They constantly, every single challenge, race, competition, especially in remission when I'm feeling good, like I'm obsessed with just throwing myself in uncomfy situations and places that I'm not meant to be in, quote unquote, like marathon, like racing, higher, like all these things. I'm doing it for fun because I always say train for those who can and compete for those who can't. And that's my one of my things that I'm constantly spewing out in the summer right now with random competitions I'm doing, because why the heck not? Why would I not? I want to represent all these women that currently are in flare-ups and currently going through invisible battles that can't show up for themselves right now. So who's going to
mm,
show up? I'm going to show up and I'm going to I'm going to train my butt off for something that I have no place being, which is the same thing for bobsled. Like I was not built. I was the tallest bobsledder as a female in the world. My body type and all that, it just never fit the standard of what a female bobsledder would be. But I put myself in that environment and threw myself out there. So that's just what I'm going to continue doing. And I have a feeling I'll bring Group of Grit with me somewhere
yeah.
crazy.
I think you need a crew neck that just says "Watch me" on the back.
I love
Group of
that.
Grit,
It's
watch
true.
me.
My mom would say, "Yeah, there she goes.
Yeah.
Watch me."
I mean, just defying all the odds, right? That seems to be what you do, and who you inspire are game changers, are women who just say, yeah, I mean, this sucks. I'm not going to deny it, but it
Mhm.
sucks, but not just it sucks, right? I really appreciate that and the community you've built. And yeah, I think our stories overlap, again, not in what has happened, but in a sense of something happened in our lives and we created a community that we wish was there. And now the responsibility has changed. It's equally as heavy, I will say. Honestly, might be more heavy when you're trying to help others, but every single day is worth it. Every single step forward is worth it. If there's one thing you could say to your community right now, both new and people you've been working with for a while, what's one thing you'd say to them?
I would say this is one of my favorite things. Approach life with playful curiosity. That is one of my favorite quotes, and I heard it from a mentor years ago. Stuck with me ever since, and I say it all the time. It's like I have been a personal example and lived through when you have your life planned out. I'm going to go to the Olympics. I'm going to do this. I'm going to live here. I'm going to work. Like none of that's going to go to plan. Accepting that and embracing it, like this, just everything that comes your way, approach it playfully, and it just makes it feel a lot lighter. I still have to constantly remind myself this, but it makes it more fun. And I think the way life can reroute you can end up turning into something really beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. I tell our community, get comfortably uncomfortable, and I think they hold the same presence. But
Mhm.
yours sounds a lot more fun. I might steal that one.
Okay,
Comfortably uncomfortable is a little bit more colorless than playful curiosity. You know,
no problem.
I might quote you there on that one. But
Sure.
as we round out the episode, is there anything that I missed that you really want to touch on that sits close in your heart, or that you think both of our communities should know?
Ooh, probably a lot, but I mean, not off the top of my head. I think, yeah, the mental health and all of yeah, our worlds kind of collide. So if people want to follow Group of Grit, I would love for you to be a part of my community.
No, it's not if they want to. It's you're going to hit the like and subscribe button if you follow
You
Make Mental,
should.
you
You
follow
should.
Group of Grit. There's no
Yeah,
exceptions.
you should.
Totally kidding. But we highly encourage it, right? We don't, like I said, we
Hmm.
try to connect our community with like-minded communities because I can't answer every question. In that I don't want to answer every question. No disrespect to people. It's just I don't have that capacity, right? I
Hmm.
have to help who I can with what I can. I can't save every single problem in the world. And I think once we realize that and say like, yeah, I don't know, but Alex might, or vice versa. Alex might
Hmm.
say, I don't know, but Caleb might. And then I might say, no, I
Yeah.
don't, but someone's, it's just that community that is so beautiful to me that, again, I really appreciate that you've built. But I do want to ask you the final question that we ask just about every guest here on the Make Mental podcast. Alex, are you ready?
Yes.
It's not that bad of a question. I'm going to make it difficult on you. Your mom cannot be the answer because that will be your answer. I know. If there is one person in the entire world right now who could use a hug from you, who would you give it to and why?
My best friend, she is giving birth in a couple of days and she's going through some stuff. So I think I would give her a big hug. I can't go see her in Canada right now. So that's who would get it.
Lovely. And I'm sure when this episode is released, fingers crossed, there's a healthy baby or babies in the mix. Who knows?
I just one.
Okay, and then she will get that, and I'm sure she'll feel the hug. But Alex, we really appreciate you for taking some time out of your day to, again, be so open, be so honest, and share a mission that is close to your heart and really your lived experience. Again, that's what we're all about here on Make Mental, is being honest, sharing our story, and really going through it together. So we really appreciate that, and you can find everything, Alex, in the description below.
Thank you, Caleb. This is fun.